at the Falls of the Ohio. And incidentally, this feature is 14 Mile Creek. This is the Ohio River, and the two meet right here. I have some better pictures. Pay close attention, please, to this feature right here. This is an artificial stone wall. It's difficult to see in this view, but when you have the actual piece of paper, or in my case a photocopy, right in front of you, it's actually very legible. And Mr. Borden's notes are very clear. This is an artificial stone wall, artificial stone wall, artificial, natural stone wall. This portion right here. Artificial stone wall. I don't want to include the entire narrative that Borden wrote because we would be here for days. But Borden's notes on this particular wall describe it as being 75 feet tall. That's pretty impressive. This wall, for most of its length, is 10, 12, 15 feet tall. Difficult to tell because the soil had built up around it by 1869, 1870 when it was surveyed. Getting back to the 1799 date with General Clark, it was not only General Clark who was told the tale that there used to be this other tribe of Indians down there, and they built all these things. This other tribe of Indians were described variously as white, fair-skinned, fair-haired, red-haired, blue-eyed, giant, Fritz, and such a pain in the ass that the other tribes rounded them all up and killed them. And in fact, the site of that massacre is about 10 miles downriver from this particular site, as described by Chief Tobacco, Chief Cornstalk, as related to both General George Rogers Clark and to Governor John Seaver. Both of them related identical tales or identical descriptions. Okay, any questions on this so far? This is the site as seen from the river. It's a little bit bright in here, but this feature right here is the Devil's Backbone as seen from the Ohio River going downriver. And no, this is not a film that I produced. Well, I did produce it, but it's not a film per se. It's an animation from Google Earth. I'm actually traversing the river, going downriver in an imaginary boat on an imaginary river, looking at an imaginary hill that somebody else drew for me. But it's drawn to scale with better than 10 centimeter resolution in Google Earth. Now, over here at this end, there are some features that become important when you consider that this was indeed a fortress. It's not simply a structure, it's not a ceremonial site per se, it's not a residential site per se, it may or may not be a commercial site, it may or may not be an industrial site, but it was certainly a military site. And both the placement, that is the natural terrain, including the high bluff, the river, the creek on one side, and where it is in relation to a falls, the only falls on the river known as the Ohio, becomes important. And this is just a different view of it, not very good view in this lighting, but this is one end of the wall that Borden surveyed, and the other marker is the other end of the wall. We're going to swing around here in a minute and get it from a different angle. And there's the bluff that overlooks the river itself. Getting it from different views so that you can kind of get a feel of, you know, when you look at it on a map, it's a flat piece of paper with a bunch of marks on it. When you look at it this way, you can almost get a feel of the terrain. You know, it was either this or rent a plane and still break the law to get footage. This is the backside. This is, right here is where the 75-foot tall wall would have been. Yes, 75 feet tall of dressed stone, looking That one was a little too fast. But looking down that bluff, you can see that it's very steep. Backside, equally steep. So you got both a moat and a high wall, natural on both counts, on both sides of this topographical feature. Swing around any time now. I must have talked a little faster than I thought I would. We'll just do this. There we go. This is the feature I was talking about. This is 14 Mile Creek. Over here is the river. And right here is an artificial cut into what is now the bottom of Devil's Backbone. And over here is the backbone itself. This is an artificial cut that has eroded in the subsequent time since the feature was built. Here is the backbone. This is an area known as Jefferson Proving Ground. I can fly over it in Google Earth. I can't set foot on it now for a couple of reasons. One is it's Navy property. The other reason is it's full of unexploded ordnance. But anyway, 14 Mile Creek, the river, and of course the extreme topography. So people could look down on most of this from across the creek. But it's still in excess of 400 yards from the top of the hill that we have as our perspective to the top of the hill on top of the Devil's Backbone. Incidentally, Devil's Backbone and areas surrounding it have been the location of a number of anomalous coin finds, mostly Roman, or technically they are called provincial Roman coins, meaning they were minted under Roman rule but not in Rome itself. They would have been minted in a province of Rome, some territorial capital. 52 of them in a single cache was found in 1964 in Clarksville, Indiana, while they were building a bridge across the Ohio for Interstate 64. Up here, just past this feature known as the Devil's Backbone, on the next little ridge, about 2 years ago, a gentleman found 11 more, spanning a period, because they are dated, and the 9 of the 11 coins spanned only 6 years. The other 3 were outliers of about another 9 years. I'm not sure I got that math right, but you get the idea. And this, once it starts, is a scale model reproduction of the wall itself at Devil's Backbone. Now, I did this in a tool that's made for Google Earth. And remember, it's 10 centimeter resolution on the topography, but it is extremely accurate when you're building a 3D model to set down in that topography. So we have a 6 foot tall human, a 12 foot tall wall as the scale. But what becomes apparent is that's not much compared to the actual length and scope of this overall facility. And this is all dressed stone. This isn't a bunch of raw rocks stacked up. These are shaped and dressed stone to a scale where you can't even see the person anymore. And it's all gone. There's not a single stone in place today. In 1869, it looked like that. There's nothing there today. This is a completely different site, on a completely different river, which happens to be the major tributary to the Ohio River. The site is called Merom Bluff at Merom, Indiana, and the river is the Wabash. And this site, this survey map, was prepared by a gentleman by the name of Eli Lilly and his associates. Now, this is not the Eli Lilly that started Eli Lilly Pharmaceuticals. No, this is the grandson of the Eli Lilly that started Eli Lilly Pharmaceuticals. That would be Colonel Eli Lilly. Grandson got bored with the pharmaceutical industry and said, I think I'll go be an amateur archaeologist. And not being a degreed archaeologist, he could chase pretty much anything he wanted to, because not only did he have the desire, he had funding. So he went to Mirren, among many other places. And he surveyed the site, and he found, Frank, he found 3 pyramidal structures and a 3-sided stone fort. And it's still there in the survey report. This was in 1936. You go there today, you find nothing. I was there Wednesday. I found nothing. In 1936, it was very well documented. But the topography, you can't change a whole lot. So let's take a look at that. This is the river coming up on the site. There's the bluff. There's a cut north of the fortress. Raise the perspective. And there is the side of the fortress. Look at that. That is an extremely steep cliff on 3 sides. For a 3-sided fortress that was immense. I mean, it covers about, what was it, about 6 acres? Okay, coming up on a different view, this is coming down the river. This would have been the west side of the fortress bluff. It's also near vertical for about 60 feet. This was impregnable. I mean, there's no way that any force of any kind could overtake this. If they had enough food, you couldn't even lay siege to it effectively. It was actually as well prepared as Troy, probably. May have taken lessons from Troy. But getting back to the salient features, the similarities between Devil's Backbone and Mirren is this right here. This is an artificial cut through the bank of the bluff and a roadway, the only access from the river to the top of the bluff. It's about 60 feet tall with vertical walls. I drove down that, or Pat drove while I filmed, Wednesday. It's still there. There's no rubble at the bottom where somebody bulldozed it out. Zero. Okay? Whatever, whoever, however they cut that out, there's no rubble. And then again, this is the actual fortress site. And there's nothing left. Whoever decided to clean it up was very, very good at cleaning it up. And they did it in the past, 74 years.